What is domestic abuse? During 2019 and 2020, over 3,289 women phoned Glasgow Women's Aid looking for information, advice, or someone to listen to them as they are living with domestic abuse. Domestic abuse happens in grown-up relationships and can even happen when that relationship has ended. Domestic abuse can happen in teenage relationships. Domestic abuse is about harmful and hurting behaviour. Domestic abuse can happen inside the home and include things like hitting and punching, or someone may use terrible words to hurt, to frighten, or to make someone feel worthless. Domestic abuse can also be if someone's having their money kept from them, or they're not allowed to see any family or friends. Domestic abuse can happen if someone sends horrible messages through your social media or your phone. Domestic abuse is never the fault of the person who is being hurt. Domestic abuse is never ever a child's fault or a victim's fault. Domestic abuse is a crime.
I'm Claire Houghton. I'm a lecturer in social policy and qualitative research at the University of Edinburgh. I'm very privileged to research with children and young people who experience domestic abuse. I've done this over many years and I'm proud to be part of many projects such as Voice Against Violence, Everyday Heroes and Cafada with children in Glasgow Women's Aid who've been at the forefront of this for 30 years, I would say. I think this book is absolutely brilliant. I've worked with children and young people experiencing domestic abuse now for 30 years. Yeah, I'm really old. And you can tell this is written by young people and with young people because the language and everything, it's just perfect. The messages from children haven't changed much, and I worry about that because I think we're not doing it enough. And then I hear from Glasgow Women's Aid about this amazing journal that they've created, and I think actually we're so far ahead of where we were because young people have been involved and young people are becoming involved. I've been working recently with some brilliant young people from Outreach service in Glasgow, and I'm really pleased to see that Glasgow Women's Aid are leading again on work with children in refuge. So I've got a few things I want to say about the book. I love how it looks, great design, and I think it will really talk to children. But the welcome at the beginning, the welcome in this book, the way you young people have defined domestic abuse, I think it's one of the best definitions I've heard, because children, whether in Everyday Heroes, years ago in Listen Louder, in all my research now, they're saying they still don't know really how to talk about it and how to define it. And worse than that, I think adults don't include children when they talk about domestic abuse often. So the way you've talked about it here and what the children have seen and experienced and lived with, I just think brings you in, and it's a warm and comforting way of talking about a really hard thing.
In 2015, it was the first time I received any form of support in my life. I was currently staying in England, and a similar organisation to Women's Aid were supporting me. Eventually, when things got quite bad, I moved back to Scotland, as that was where I was from. The lady who was supporting me in England got in touch with Women's Aid in Glasgow. Even though I'd been brought up in Glasgow, everything just felt really new, and having had such an isolated couple of years, it was almost as though learning how to walk all over again. So she had put me in touch with Women's Aid, sent me details on how to get there, and that was how my journey sort of began with Women's Aid.
Glasgow's Women's Aid have been supporting women, children and young people for nearly 50 years. We started in 1973 and still here today. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the way we work is a little bit different just now. But throughout the week, our team of workers are supporting women, children and young people over the phone, by email and our refuges, and through video calls. We have staff taking emergency phone calls at our office on Bell Street. We have staff in refuge, and some of our team are working from home. Women and children are still able to move into a refuge during lockdown.
Glasgow Women's Aid has 5 refuges across the city. These flats are for women, children and young people. The families that live with us come in all shapes and sizes. Some families are small, some are big, Some children live with their aunt or their grand, and some women come to live with us on their own.
Glasgow Women's Aid has 5 refuges across the city, and each refuge is different, but we try very hard to make sure that they are a welcoming place for women and children to come to. If your mum, aunt or gran feels like moving to refuge is the best thing for you all, she will speak to our staff at Bell Street.
I remember first going into the office and taking my daughter and just sort of offloading it, and I realised that was the first time sort of speaking out about my experience. And a few days later they told me that they had a space in the refuge.
In the background, staff are working away to make sure that the flat is ready for you when you arrive, and the children and young people's team always make sure there are some little gifts to welcome you to refuge. This could be a box with a card telling you our names, some pyjamas, a cuddly bear, books and some treats. This is because it's important that you know that we are really glad that you are with us. We know how scary the thought of leaving your home is, and we try really hard to make moving in with us as easy as it can be.
I also remember the first time I went into the refuge and I was sat in the common room. I remember being terrified, and I remember the support worker just asked me, "Are you okay? And you know where you are?" And I was like, I actually don't know this part of Glasgow. I think it's just more panic and the realisation of the massive step I'd taken, and it was something that happened so quick, but in the long run it was massively beneficial for me, and everything just went slow and easy for me, because when they showed me where I was going to be staying, I remember just looking at the space and thinking, how am I going to manage? It's just me and my child. And they were like, okay, this is your space, if you need anything just let us know. And they left, and within half an hour they were back up and they were like, okay, here's some towels. And I think the fact that they knew just the right approach to give me, that really helped me in starting my life all over again.
Once you're moved in and settled, the adult in your life will have her own worker to talk to, and they'll talk about things like money, your old house, new house ideas, keeping safe, and they'll be able to talk about domestic abuse, what happened and how it made them feel.
Going into the refuge, it definitely was something I never thought of. I suppose it's not something anybody thinks about going into, but the fact that the service is there, is a massive, massive help for people like myself that need somewhere to feel safe. I also remember there was phases where my anxiety was really, really high. I could just go down the stairs and say, look, this is how I'm feeling. I'm going to panic and I feel like I'm not going to manage to get through the court cases.
Every child and young person who moves into refuge is allocated their own worker. Even if a child or young person lives in one of our community flats, they still have their own worker too. It is so important that children and young people have an adult in their life who is there to listen to just them, to support them and help in any way they can. Staff are here to support children and young people on their journey through refuge, working at a pace that feels just right for them.
You'll be able to talk to your worker about how you felt moving into refuge, your thoughts and your feelings about the domestic abuse that happened in your life. We also do lots of fun things, and this can be from playing games, being with other young people in refuge, going out on trips. The whole staff team love hearing about new ideas from young people for things for us all to do and enjoy.
And reading this book, it lists some of the experiences that I recognise, talking about parties and things that were organised by Women's Aid for some of the service users. And I remember the first Christmas party that I ever really remember going to was one organised by Women's Aid, and Santa came, and I was really pleased. I remember queuing up to get a present, and I got given a gift. It was a toy from She-Ra, which is one of my favourite cartoons when I was a kid, and I really loved that toy. It was one of the baddies, which I didn't mind because it was mine. It was one of the first toys I ever remember getting. And Women's Aid were really there for my family throughout whole sections of our childhood. My brothers got taken away on an adventure holiday, and I didn't get to go because I was too young, which I complained a lot about. But then the next year they had another holiday that was organised, and I was able to go on that one. And we went on a camping holiday with other service users from Women's Aid. So like I have lots of really, really happy memories, and I think that's a really important thing to document and a really important thing to share with children and service users that are going through similar things.
And the other thing I like about it is that you don't shy away from it, because the children have come to Refuge because they've experienced domestic abuse. And I think some adults are scared about naming domestic abuse, like saying what it is, but you have helped not just children, but adults speak about domestic abuse from the onset. But it's not just about the hurting, is it? What I love is it's about fun and memories. I remember one of the youngest child I've ever worked with said to me, it's to make good memories out of bad memories. And the whole point of Refuge was to replace the bad memories. And I know that you need a space for your bad memories and to work through it with your worker. But I do think that's what Women's Aid can do. They can replace some of the bad memories with the most brilliant things, new things you've not been allowed to do, things you've not been able to afford to do because of the way you've been living. And I love that. I love that you're working through the hard times, but you're replacing some of those memories with the fun times, and then you're making sure you remember them when you leave. I think it's quite hard to leave. I think it's quite hard for children and women to leave Refuge, even though it's really exciting and safer and safer than where you were before Refuge and things like that often. But I think it's important that you take your memories with you and you look to the future.
Hello, I'm Ingrid. I work in both the outreach and the follow-on service at Glasgow Women's Aid. Today I'll be talking about our follow-on service and the support we provide. When families say goodbye to our refuge service to move on to their new home, the follow-on service becomes involved to help with this transition.
The follow-on support was massive because that was when I had a few more court dates that came into place. They provided me support with childcare. They knew that I didn't leave the house, and the fact that they checked in on me, the fact that they knew my likes and my dislikes, and that they treated me as an individual and not just the same as everybody else, it means so much to me.
This is the follow-on section in our lovely book. So, what is the follow-on service? Well, moving to a new home can be exciting, but it can be a period of mixed emotions. Families commonly feel uncertain and at times overwhelmed about yet another house move. They often also have feelings of loss as they are leaving the support of Refuge behind, which might be the first place that they have felt safe for a long time. We provide ongoing therapeutic support on a one-to-one basis, usually in a community setting such as school. Children and young people can expect emotional as well as practical support and will be listened to with respect and given space to talk about their feelings. Support will also include after-school sessions to local resources, for example joining a library, local clubs, or introducing the child to their nearest park to enable them to integrate fully in the local community. Support for preschool children can include sourcing and attending local amenities such as a local mother and toddler group, nursery, and other appropriate services that may be of interest. To help make the move to a new home a little easier, we have been very fortunate to receive funding from Children in Need, which enables follow-on children to design how they would like their new bedroom to be decorated. This fund has been invaluable, allowing children to choose items such as bedding, cushions, study desk and chair, and lighting for their bedroom to help make it more comfortable, welcoming, and a new safe space for them. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Children in Need for their support and funding, as it makes such a positive difference to the children and young people that we support. Due to COVID-19, we have had to adapt some of the support we can offer, which has brought many challenges. However, in keeping with current government guidelines, we have continued to provide support in schools, social distance walks, online support via Zoom, WhatsApp, telephone. We have also sent out therapeutic and fun resources to our children and young people to help them during the lockdown and school holidays. Pre-COVID-19, we also provided school holiday day trips and new experiences for families. For example, a trip to the seaside, which allowed follow-on families to meet, have fun and make some more new positive memories. We really hope that this can be reinstated when it is safe to do so, as I'm sure you agree there's nothing quite like a rainy day at a Scottish beach.
One of the things I also remember is my daughter was extremely clingy to me, and the children's service was amazing. By the time we even left, she was a totally different person. To be able to see the support and the love that was given to my daughter from the beginning right to the end, it was a massive change, and they just provided so much comfort to her and to me, a lot of reassurance. It put a lot of ease in my mind to know that she was safe. The change in her was massive.
We have a young women's service. We were funded by Bank of Scotland to employ a dedicated worker to expand this, but workers have always shared this role, and it's something Glasgow Women's Aid have taken pride in doing for a while. The bulk of the time we're directly supporting young women between the ages of 13 and 19 experiencing abuse in their own relationships. We've recruited a focus group of young women who have had support. They've been able to steer the service. We're looking at things like the service name, making artwork, branding, language, and also the best ways to communicate with young women, something that we can't claim to be anymore, unfortunately. They're supporting us to look at progressing the service, for example, thinking about what works, like a helpline, drop-ins. Workers are also looking at training and awareness raising sessions around experiencing domestic abuse in your own relationship with our training and development worker, Caroline. And we're also looking at linking in with schools, colleges and universities to expand this really needed service in the Glasgow area. We have a dedicated play therapist, Esme, who wrote a piece for the Big Journey Journal using therapeutic stories, which is one of the many ways in which she engages with the children and young people she supports and shows how she understands them and is holding them in mind. Esme works alongside 3 to 12-year-olds through play, allowing them a space and the support to work through their experiences. She's able to help carers and teachers to understand children's best needs and how to best support them. Children can be referred to Esme where through age and stage, maybe additional needs, maybe just the child's communication preference.
When it came to the time when I was leaving the refuge, one of the things that I remember vividly is when they said, right, this is it, you've got your last thing to do, and it was to wipe my name off the board as I left that flat, and I was in tears. The hugs and the love and the words of encouragement, it's indescribable. I've never received that sort of support, and I've never been as appreciative as I have with Women's Aid. When I first got a job and I gave I donated some of my money from my first wage to them because I feel I owe it to them. If that service didn't exist, I wouldn't be where I am today. I am really thankful for it.
Our retired colleague Elizabeth regularly said that this was the best job she had had in her long career. We can't help but agree. We are in a really privileged position to be alongside these quite incredible young people who surprise, impress and amuse us on a daily basis. I must also say that this team of children's workers really are genuine superheroes, along with the theme of the conference, with interests of our young people at the forefront, and they are pulling in the same direction, which is of course onwards and upwards.
I just want to echo the lovely wishes from the mums and the grannies and the aunties. I love that. I wish every child and the children that have made this all these lovely, safe, happy, respectful wishes for the future. And yeah, store those memories, make sense of them, make them build you into what you are now, because that's just as the Emma was at the beginning says, you can go on to do amazing things. You can go on to amazing things in your life. You're so much more than the hurt that's happened. Look at these young people, everyday heroes, did their own research project with us. They became experts in research. They're brilliant artists, like graphic design, phenomenal. All of these different skills. I'm sure some of you will be politicians one day, as one young person said from Everyday Heroes group. Just you be who you want to be, and yeah, this will help you work through everything and make sure that you are like Billy the Blackbird flying off to a new life. So I just think it's fantastic. So well done everybody involved. Every single thing I've found over 30 years seems to be covered here. Like everything that children have said, you found a way of saying it and helping them work through it and have a better life. which is what we're all about, isn't it? So well done, everybody. Fantastic.
I've recommended the service to people as well, and I can see the change in other people that have used the service, and I'm really, really thankful. I wouldn't be where I am, and I call them my first family.